Hi, this is Dr. Mark Sell of the YouTube channel Therapy for the Heart, and it's my pleasure to be here today to introduce you to Mr. Franco Moschetti. Mr. Moschetti is a director, actor, playwright, and filmmaker, artistic director of the Cabrini Repertory Theater, and founder of the Thespis Theater Festival. So I'd like to ask you, first of all, other than language, what are some of the notable differences in theater in Italy as compared to New York?
Well, when I first started to be involved in playing and doing theater in New York City, the first thing that I was really touched about was the fact that there is really not a great love for tragedy. Although some may say so, it's very much like the most of the production, at least in New York City, do it to the Broadway influence. It's more like happy-go-lucky and have a lot of musical, have a lot of funny play. And coming from Italy, and in general also inside of France is very much like this, and in Greece, we have all this Greek and Roman tragedy behind our background for centuries. So we have a tendency to just have play that just deal very much with the inner emotions of people, and you go in big tragedy oftentimes. So you see a play in Italy, it's really intense. I mean, you don't go there just to, to spend a different night. You just go there knowing what is, it's like some of the operas, you go just there and you know what you're getting. It's certainly not something you come out and you're cheerful, because some of them, they have not very nice ending. And what is a nice ending anyway? So it's all relative. So my play, the one that I wrote, they're very much in that way. So oftentimes I have public coming to see my work, and you have people that are extremely touched. They may cry, they will go into inner transformation, at least that's what they say. But you see their faces. They may just tell you at the end, oh wow, that was really heavy to digest. They will say things like that. So much as it's not here, it's so much more televisionized, the approach that we have in theater. That doesn't mean there is not good theater, on the opposite. It's beautiful, it's refined, it's modern, and what we have in Europe, and especially in Italy, sometimes it's a little bit like too ancient. It would be time also to get a little bit more up and about. So I find that the approach here from everybody that's working in New York is so completely fresh. And you have these young kids that are working here, they come here to present their work. I mean, I say kids, I mean people in their 20s now. I'm a little older, I call them kids. I mean, they're just people that are already up and about in theater. And what they come here, they just come with this very, very unusual subjects. They're not afraid to say things, they're not afraid to take their transgression. It's not another word for them, it's not a limit or a filter for them, and they play very much with everything that is, would say, tabloid. They're very excessive, they're very direct, they're very blatant, but they write very nicely. It's very, have a touch of reality, immediate. There is no, see in Europe, especially in Italy, we have this tendency to put layers on top. So going behind and going in, so it's just different. I don't think either one of them is good. I think each one of them will just, benefit for the other approach. So I see it in that way. That's why I am. I will try to write a play for laughing next year. It's a good experience for me to do, because if I play something, tears are involved all the time. That's the difference I see.
You did a play about the Germans who helped the resistance.
Yes, When Yellow Were the Stars on Earth. That's a classical example. It's one of the many plays I've directed. And so that was an intense story. So for the first time, I wrote also the play. And for the first time, I was exploring the possibility about a woman who was a lover of a German captain, SS officer. And she hemmed up for a certain circumstance during the play to save a Jewish resistant fighter, a woman, and the two of them, in the course of one night, they become friends. And then that end up sacrifice their life from each other, in fact, which is so unusual. You don't find this in the history books or whatever. If it happened, there is not much of a testimony of this. But yeah, there is a lot of tears, maybe it would say, but I always have a tendency to end the play with a touch of transcendency. There's got to be something transcendent, something that goes behind, kind of heroic, something of self-sacrificing, something in that direction. That's what the play was all about.
So that in that play there, the self-sacrifice was what transcended.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So the fact that at a certain moment each one of them give their life for the other, and that created a state of, yes, there is so much hope. After all of this, after all the Holocaust, after all the war, there's always something to go on. And hope, I believe that hope is probably one of the most beautiful things that humankind can experience and have. A man without hope, it's almost a man without life.
Well, that's a beautiful statement that you made. Beautiful way of looking at life.
Yes.
Reminds me a little bit of your play about the pianist. Are you familiar with the?
You mean the movie?
Yes, the movie.
Oh,
Did I say play?
absolutely. Yes,
The
I used to
movie,
play.
yes,
So
I do that.
it's fantastic. It's one of
Yes.
the most beautiful.
Yeah.
I like the way the inside the Pulaski, the way he looked at the whole script, the way he took it. It was not really. If you really look at that, there was nothing denouncing really. Yes, you could see the tragedy of the war. You could see, of course, there are some scenes when the famous scene when there's this boy they're trying to sneak under the fence and they crash. Those things, I read them all. We all did.
Yeah.
I read a lot about the Holocaust. I was many years involved in this. But there is hope. There is so much hope in that play.
Yes.
And the hand is not just a handy to make you feel good. Because in fact, if you look at that, there's more tragedy at the end than many other movies that have people die. But the hope is the hope. It's all over. It's very European, Pulaski. No matter what is his background, what is done in his personal life, which is a big issue, which we don't want to get into that now. But it's so, and he's an Holocaust survivor, by the way. So who knew better than anybody else that approach? I'm very familiar with that kind of.
Is there any way that people can access the play that you wrote?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what happened that is going to have another run here in October. Maybe you can come and just.
I'd love to come.
Yes.
It sounds like what a wonderful
Yes,
subject.
we had a big following. When we did a run already on Broadway, that's off Broadway, 2 years ago, and there was an amazing following up. So people literally were just ending up the night, and they would call old friends, and the day after we keep having the theater was completely packed.
Now, what has your time in New York done for your creativity?
Oh, incredibly. So I was just, I was living before coming here. I lived in Belgium for 10 years, lived and worked there. So I moved there when I was in my end of 20s. And I was having a very nice life there, and somebody invited me here. So I just came here in New York City. And I remember still like now, it was 1999, I just walk out of the plane and I start to enter in Manhattan, and something really hit me. I was, it was like a golden bullet. It just struck me, and I said, wow. It was everything about what I thought that what I wanted to do, being that energy. There was this enormous pearl of energy and art. And the moment I started to go to museum and to go to exhibitions, I was here for almost a month and a half, and I just was going everywhere, and I was just dazzled, completely taken by the energy and the vibration of it, that if you're not careful can turn into something very harsh, because there is no time really in New York City, especially in Manhattan, to really cultivate this, inner relationships with people. You oftentimes have somebody in the afternoon, and that's it. You don't nothing to build after. So you have to really be a person that feels okay by living that kind of life. And the only thing that you can do here, and to just be totally involved in what you do, it's not just, you can't have a laid back life here. You're just busy from morning to night, you're involved. If you do art, this is your city. And if you are not in art, or I would say in business maybe, it's hard to live here, because that's another regular life. You go home, you Papa Bear, Mama Bear. You just have your little family, wonderful family, your car, your backyard, your friends, and barbecue. You have nothing of this here. You meet with people to do art, to do something, and it's always something active. And the art form is special theater. Are you kidding? This is incredible. Yeah. There's every year that I know there are at least 600 to 700 new play in off-Broadway. They are written and presented in small stages. This is just amazing. I mean, I know very well. I come from Rome. If you have 4 or 5 plays created in 1 year, that's a lot.
It's big, yeah.
So
Yeah.
here it's just huge, huge.
When I was 12 years old, I'm thinking about what you said about the energy of New York City. And I first came to New York when I was 12 years old. And my father would bring me down here for weekends. And about that time, I also got my first bicycle. At that time, also, I ran away to New York City from Albany, New York. And we got about 30 miles outside of Albany, which was pretty good for 2 kids that were 12 years old. But I was captivated by the energy of New York City. Compared to Albany, New York, there was no comparison. Albany was really a college town. But finally, 8 years later, I managed to get down here. And I'm somewhat of a part-time artist. That I was going to go to art school at that time, and then I changed my mind. And
So you stayed the older way.
I went to became a therapist eventually. Yeah, but I still do my art. Yeah.
Some people do New York too for too much of a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, they're too long here. So there's no work in the way they're thinking, even artistically speaking. So there is no point. You're better just trying to do something else. But they keep staying in the city. In the city, it's very powerful. It's a spiral. And if you don't live the spiral well, it can spin you on the side.
Spin you down.
Exactly. And then you go down in the spiral, and it's going to be painful.